Start over.
All right, 6 o'clock, I call to order, please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any roll call, please?
Mayor Feldman,
Here.
council members Ludwig. Here. Muehlbauer,
Here.
Bauer,
Here.
Robinson.
Here. All right, moving on to tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
We make that one.
Councilor Goodman makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilor Robinson makes that second. Any discussion? You do all by roll call tonight, right? So Jenny, do roll call, please.
Council members Robinson,
Here.
Bauer,
Aye.
Ludwig. Aye. Muehlbauer,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. All right, moving on to tonight's consent agenda. Do I have a motion tonight to adopt tonight's consent agenda? I'll make that motion. Councilor Bauer makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilor Robinson makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor for roll call, Jerry, please.
Mayor Feldman,
Aye.
council members Robinson,
Aye.
Ludwig. Aye. Bauer,
Aye.
Muehlbauer.
Aye.
Now, obviously, tonight, we have a lot of people in this audience on the Green Valley issue, okay? And I'm sure that you put down your names for meeting up with the public, Jenny, I would imagine, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say what my rules are for a council meeting, which you've heard before. Common respect, common courtesy, leave your anger at the door, and bring your issues up to here, okay? That's number one, okay? Number two is, this has gone through 2 P&Z meetings and 2.5 hours with the city council meeting and numerous phone calls and emails from you, the residents, to us. I think we actually understand you don't want this passed. I think we pretty much get that through all that you've said and done, okay? Over, I would imagine over about a month, 2 months, maybe about it all. So unless you have something new to say, something new and reasonable, why we should deny this, I don't believe that the council wants to hear it anymore, because we know how you feel, okay? I have it all in front of me. I've read it and read it and read it and read it, like the most quote by heart. So I'm saying to you, if you're gonna come up here, state your name and address for the record, where you live, not the property you own, where you live, and tell us something new that we need to hear. That's what I'm gonna ask you, because I don't want this meeting to go on and drag out for 2.5 hours on the same stuff that was said before. So, do we have any names that want to come up and say something new, not something old?
I'm Zach Statham, 19817 Juneau Trail, Lakeville. I have something new to say. As my associate had given you a copy, and I think the city attorney has it now. We currently have an injunction in front of a judge right now that it would do a temporary stay of these proceedings tonight, so you would not be able to vote on this. The Green Valley Development has not done a boundary survey, not a legal survey. They do not have many things that are required in this. But the biggest issue is, this is a taking of land that is owned by my family, the Rexville family. And you cannot take land without doing a condemnation and paying for the land first. And that's exactly what this vote tonight is going to do. You haven't done a condemnation on the land yet, and you haven't paid for it, and that's exactly what it's gonna do. It's gonna take the property boundary in multiple areas where we have farmed it for over 70 years. And if you vote on this tonight, you're going to be permanently taking the land from us and giving it to Green Valley. And I think that is totally wrong, and that's why we have it in front of a judge now. I don't know if the judge has made a ruling yet tonight. They said it could be either tonight or tomorrow morning. So I would definitely see if maybe your attorney can look that up to see if he made a ruling tonight or not.
All right, Joe, Dave, can you respond to this?
Yes. I just checked online. There is no ruling by the judge right now. So what this is before the judge and what this is before the city council is a motion. And so the information has been provided, but we have not seen any court order. And again, the statute requires a court order before anything can be stayed. I would also note that in the approvals for this application, it states that all title work needs to be resolved prior to final plat. If a court were to issue some type of an order, or if the boundary line in some way were changed, that would mean that the developer would have to come back to the city council on his approvals because something would have changed. And so again, I'm just looking at, I'll hit refresh here. Check once again. No, there's just the motion that has been filed as right now, and that's what we have received.
Right, but once again, as you just stated here, part of this plat, all this title question, boundary lines and that have to be satisfied before this can go to final.
The developer cannot obtain his final land use approvals until all title work has been settled.
And satisfied.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that has to come up with something new?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Bob Olson. I live at 7175 245th Avenue Northwest, St. Francis. My wife and I farm 1,000 acres and own 250 acres on that side of St. Francis and Stanford Township. And I know that you don't want to go over the things that have been presented to you before, so the only thing I can do is ask you. I was told maybe you wanted to know some of the hazards that are involved between residences and farms, but if that's not your priority, then I'll just give you a couple summary sentences. So what would you prefer, Mr. Mayor?
That's fine. Go do that.
Okay, the proposed development is the exact opposite of how the wording in the zoning ordinance is set up, so that it changes it completely. And the member of this council have the right to approve or disapprove of variances to change the use of this property. And the thing that they should realize is that it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And we've had representation here at the last 4 meetings for all the people who live within 3/4 of a mile of this property, and nobody came in and supported it. And there's no social, economic, or environmental reason that it would benefit the community. And we ask you to vote the way your citizens choose to give you input. I very much appreciate you hearing from me, and I thank you for your consideration.
Let me ask you a question, sir.
Sure.
So you're all telling me basically if it's 14 10-acre lots, you're fine with that, but not 14 lots in a cluster development. But you're fine with the acreage of 146 and a half some
The
acres.
rules, we're not trying to change the rules, but a lot of people came here and made investments knowing that there was going to be a certain density of houses so that they could do certain things on their property. And this comes in and changes the density completely. First of all, in responsible development, you don't take building rights out of swamps and put them on high ground and get building rights. In Isani County, where I am very active, you take the building rights off the buildable sites and move them around if you want to cluster. But you don't end up with 14 on this property, you end up with many, many less. And that, I'm not going to argue with what's being presented, I'm just telling you our decision. I farm and I've had some very close calls with people that live in communities. And I could tell you some horror stories. I found a brand new tricycle in the field when I was combining in the middle of the night. I found a skateboard inside my combine that was chewed up. Kids.
But that is people using your property that shouldn't be using your
They're out
property.
in the fields because it's a good playground for kids when they're clustered into a small area where their yard isn't big enough to do what they want to do. And there's some terrible things that have happened on the news where somebody loses a child. You know, because farming is the third most dangerous occupation. And the risks are there. If we can eliminate some of the risks by not clustering people close to agriculture, I think it's a responsible thing to consider.
Right, but you understand, it's 14 homes on 10 acre lots, 14 homes on cluster, it's still 14 homes.
But you wouldn't have 14 if you follow the rules without variances.
Yes, you would, you'd have 14 10 acre lots.
Yeah, but you can't put lots in swamps. And a good half of this acreage is on,
All the lots that I've seen here in this plan is 14 buildable homes, and the rest is wetlands. And wetlands can be built on, but it's cost prohibitive. No one will develop those wetlands.
Absolutely, you're
With any
absolutely
kind of
right.
money, half a brain would not do that.
but
So
those wetlands in most responsible places don't contribute to a building site for the total. I'm not going to argue with you because that may not be the rule
I'm not
here.
gonna argue because I'm trying to understand why 14 on 10 acre lots, 14 different cluster lots is still 146 half acres divided up and then there's wetlands. I've been trying to go over this thing for months now in my mind, reading everything I could possibly read, listening to everybody call me, email me, whatever. I've listened to every response I can, and I truly, and I look at a page in the packet here and I see what these guys have tried to do with farms. I'm trying to work with you people and all that. I just don't understand it. I just really don't get it. And I'm wondering if council is in the same dilemma that I am, trying to understand what is the deal here. I mean, I just don't, like someone said to me, well, they don't live here. I don't know of any rule or requirement that a builder or developer has to live in the city they build in. I built in St. Michael, I didn't live there. I built in Centerville, I didn't live there. So I mean, if we all waited for builders and developers to live in the cities they built in, there'd be no building. So that's one thing I don't comprehend. The other thing about PUDs is planning unit developments. Planning unit developments are a flexible tool. For instance, I'll give you an example. Let's say 10 years ago, an ordinance was created, or 20 years ago was created. And during that time frame, the city has now progressed in a different way and started growing in a progressive way. And that tool is allowed to be used so that you can go with the times and changes in the growth. That's what the PUD is. PUDs are not new to St. Francis. They've been around for years and years. Am I correct on this?
Correct.
Because we just didn't make this up. You know, I've heard that. I've heard so many excuses here. And all I'm asking from you is reasonable reasons why this council should deny this. Reasonable reasons. Not about Anoka County and the road and the bypass lanes and all this. Because when you bought up Ambassador, you bought up a county road. That's not our road. We don't dictate and have any authority on that road. It doesn't, we can't, there's nothing we can do about it. So if the county road's going to approve something or do bypass lanes, that's between the county and the individual.
There's a precedent that's been set in St. Francis. I was a real estate agent for 10 years, and I got turned down twice on a preliminary suggestion that we have what do you call it? PUD, because they said, no, it's not in the district where we can hook onto sewer and water, so we don't want that because we don't want to concentrate the houses, so we can't hook onto sewer and water. And the goal of the zoning ordinance is that you build and develop where you can hook onto sewer and water. It gives you a sack and whack fee for the city, and it clusters them all of the services. I mean, where we are out there, we can't even get good telephone service because the phone line isn't good enough. And you had 14.
And how long ago, sir, did you do that with that PUD?
Pardon?
How long ago did you do that with that PUD?
Depends on who pays for it.
I mean, how long ago were you working on that requesting?
2014 was the last time that I came before the zoning committee.
And as I mentioned to you before, if MUSA were in this area, if municipal urban service area was in this area, it wouldn't be 14 homes you'd be talking about. It'd probably be more like 40, 60 or more homes in this area. If MUSA was there.
Yeah,
And it'd be more clustered.
you're substituting building rights to agricultural land. What are you doing for agriculture in this community? Everything is disappearing. And it's still viable. And that's some of the most productive land in this area, but Honeywell, Lion Tech, whatever it is now, they stopped allowing people to farm all that land. That's several hundred acres. If this is taken out, this is gonna wipe out another 100 some acre farm. That's the last of what's left on that farm. And when is it gonna, are you telling us we should just develop everything out to the edge?
I'm not telling you anything.
No, President.
The dilemma that the city council has is trying to look at the broader, larger picture of the city and not taking into consideration one neighborhood over the other. We don't judge by neighborhoods. We judge at the larger picture in total. And these individuals, from what I can see, bought 146 and a half acres, no different than what you own or your own, and they follow requirements in that. Like I say again, I just would like to see some reasonable reasons why we should deny this, not motions slapped on our face at the last end here and about PUDs and they don't live here and too many lights here, this and all this stuff. I mean, reasonable reasons why we should deny this.
The zoning ordinance on the east side of the Sealing Brook is rural residential, which is what is intended. That's sandy soil where you can have well drainage for sewer and water. And Met Council approved their plan to have agriculture on the other side of Sealing Brook. And if you're going to build an agricultural area, you're supposed to do it on 10 acres. So the plain and simple, should you change the rules? That's the only point that I really want to follow up on. And I didn't intend to take much time here. Thank you very much for
No, I
listening.
appreciate your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else that's going to come up here with something reasonable and new?
Carolyn Thompson, 6938 Ambassador Boulevard, St. Francis. What I'm going to bring up is in the ordinance that's on the agenda to be voted on. I would like to bring up the last clause in the recital where it says, whereas the proposed development provides a clear and identified public benefit to the city in the form of preserved open space within conservation easement, the preservation of existing snowmobile trail within the public right of way, and the cluster development which decreases the impact of the development on the site's existing and surrounding natural resources. What I'd like to point out that was omitted is the remaining part of the city ordinance, where it states that the flexibility is granted through the PUD process for the development, produce a clear and identified benefit to the city, and this was omitted, that would not have been achievable following the standard zoning procedure. So what I would like you to do is look at the benefits listed and see if they are clear, identified, and can be met without changing the zoning. The snowmobile trail does not qualify because it can be achieved with the current zoning. I've given you the information on the conservation easement. The benefits that reside in the conservation easement can be found in the agreement that is the rough draft that I've given to you guys. And you will find that the owner will retain all property rights, obviously the title, possess the property, control the property, exclude, which he has, and to enjoy it. So clear and identified benefit, that is not. So what I'm asking that you do is please refer to the city code that you are, as represented with us, legally bound to follow.
All right. Anyone else? Something new to say? Josh and Terry, would you please come up here and explain to the council what you've tried to do with berms and whatnot here? Sure. I'm going to do this right now, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, since the last meeting, we kind of took away some concerns of the public and I tried to put in some, kind of went back out to the site and kind of looked along Ambassador, and we've talked about some burners and creating some.
So a second, Joe Wheelbauer, that's 118 on your packet, page 118 on your packet. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So along Ambassador, some of the, first of all, this farm, the Larson Farm is what we purchased back in 2013, but the Larson Farm was originally sold to a developer in 2005 or 6-ish. So this property was an active farm with one house on it. And then after we purchased the home, we developed this 40 across the street that was part of the Larson Farm. And now this Larson Farm consists of 5 new homes. And now we're proposing this additional development to the project. Now, some of the new homes have already started to create berms along Ambassador and trees, and that we weren't a part of, but they've kind of created their own buffer along Ambassador, have created some berming and some pine trees. So what we try to do is, how can we make this all kind of tie together, right? So what they've started matures, we have proposed kind of something similar to create some buffers so that when you come into the original Larson Farm here, which is now Green Valley Reserve, we kind of have a consistent flow. So the neighboring parcels to where our access is to the east have both created berms with trees. So now we've kind of, along the backside of these properties, as you come into the development, have proposed trees to kind of help with some of the safety concerns, create a buffer, allow some of the activity from the neighboring properties to have less impact. The lots on the west side of the road here on block 1, those all have a nice tree line, are really deep. So there's not really much impact to actual farming activity.
Going back to it, that's about 20% farming.
Yeah, in our development, what's left of the Larson Farm is about the 20 is a significantly small portion of what the original farm was, because the 40 across the street is no longer being farmed. The property on the very east side, 10 acres, now has a brand new house with a big pole barn on it that's not being farmed. And so we've kind of met as far as the development itself, putting some berming, and then as far as the driveway access to Rebecca Curtis's property, we've had our surveyor out and we've kind of looked at grading and ways that we could create take away the safety concerns, still plant some trees, create a nice buffer there, kind of, work through some of the concerns that were brought up. So we've kind of reached out to the main 2 property owners that are probably the most impacted by the development, with the buffering, helping and assisting with driveways, future trees. And then we've also looked at the overall Larson Farm, all the land that was part of the Larson Farm that is now to have new homes built on it, what they've already done. And we feel like what we're doing would tie the whole Larson Farm back together with this development.
Let me ask you this, when you bought this land, was your intention to future develop it?
Yes, and we did immediately, we did develop. So the first property next to Phil Thompson's property, there was a 9.5 acre parcel that had its own property identification number. We sold that property off, that had its own PID. So that was sold, built on. Then there was 39 acres across the street on Ambassador where the 3 homes are built now. We went through the planning process with the city of St. Francis and developed that property at that time. And I personally built one of the homes in there. to my building company. And, so then we've been talking with staff for years about options with this development. This didn't just happen. And so through the years, we've kind of gone through some different scenarios, and you guys have had some different rules change within your planning and different things. So when we had a discussion that there was some more new options for developing our property. So that's when we started going through the concept plans. We came up with a number of concepts, and we had them reviewed, and we came and had them, went to the meetings and wanted to make sure before we made the commitment of going forward with this, that we had the support of the city of St. Francis and staff, and that the plan was something that was a viable thing. And that
So
was-
once again, your intent was, when you purchase the land, was to develop.
Yes.
And your intent of driving 14 lots on this is not to keep those lots, but to sell those lots.
Correct.
So that this correction on lot 9, block 2, from 27 acres to 89 acres is not for you to hold on to it, for you to sell it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and to really get to the 14 lots, so it's not 14 lots plus an outlot, it's 14.
Right now, it's 14 lots. And that was, again, 27, 62 acres have been added onto it,
Correct.
and that's a sellable lot.
Yes.
Correct,
All your lots are available for sale if this were to go through.
correct.
This is not for you to hold on to it.
No,
I want to make that perfectly clear, because I have a question on that from an individual.
sure, no, the plan is fine.
Okay. Anything else you have to say of what you try to do here? As far as the berms? I mean, I knew at the last meeting you were talking about some berms. I was kind of surprised how many berms I see in this sheet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the surveyor did a really good job as far as, the placement, that they're close to Ambassador. They're close to where Phil would be looking towards the development. They're really, keyed around the whole, everything that everybody said, essentially at the meetings with Eric.
And these title issues, of course, have to be corrected before this goes to plan.
Yeah,
Right? Okay, thank you, John.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Now.
I have a question. There was some discussion, several meetings ago, original template that you had talked about, if it was 1 per 10, how many homes would you be able to get in that same footprint? Or did you think about back then, or at the?
what we would have to do is actually come around the corner, kind of where the block, or on the, where Gene's land is, and we would have to actually get some wetland credits. Continue the road south, and we could actually wind it and twist it. We would be able to get all 14 lots.
In the original template, you could put 14 homes, 1 per 10 in there, and as far as credits, how much, maybe it's too broad a question, but how much wetland would you have to trade in acreage or square feet, or?
It was, I'm gonna say just a wild guess from what I talked to one guy that looked at it. I think it was gonna cost us probably about 60 grand for the credits and essentially for the road.
And then also, again, this is your property, you can do whatever within the reasons, reasonableness. If you did the 1 for 10, you'd be giving up that, the larger portion that's gonna be going into a conservation situation then. So
Yeah.
your recreational area would be split up amongst some of these newer homes then, correct?
Yeah, and then what I didn't want to do, or what I'm still trying to do is, then you'd have to get permission from everybody for the snowmobile trail that they cross through. I'm trying to keep this, kind of a permanent trail. They would use the road, and then once they get to the road, right now, they just need 1 lot's permission. Where if we did all those lots in the back, they need everybody's permission. And then Gary Zimmerman owns the land to the south of us. Well, just Gary, it gets to the next main road to the south of us. So it's just a good connection, essentially, Ambassador to the road that goes to the south.
Okay, but again, the conservation area then would be divided up among some of the 14 residents that would be built there.
Correct, and it would all be buildable,
Okay,
anything that's high, and of course, wetland credits can be bought to build wherever they want.
sure.
So
Okay.
that would have to go away, and that's, I think that people, when they're looking at this, they're thinking, a year from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now,
And I'm saying 100 years from now, 200 years from now, that snowmobile trail can be used for something else. So yeah, I mean, it's just looking way, way into the future, that'll always be green space.
Would the value of the homes change at all if you did the 1 for 10? Would would be more of for the term executive, would they be 500,000 and up rather than 350 type homes? If you had to do it in that?
Yeah, I mean, the land would be more. You might take some people out that would normally buy here that wouldn't be able to afford it.
But would the structures be different also? Would they probably be more hand structures then as well?
The properties across the street were all built on 10, 16 acres. And today's, they were pretty basic homes.
Okay.
I mean, as far as they weren't, 2 stories or huge, 4,500 square feet homes, they were very, good. So I would say that people would probably continue, a similar, plan. I mean,
Yeah, with construction costs, I don't know,
They just be
Sometimes
more
people are
secluded
less-
residences, so they might have a different feel or flavor to them than. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
So one question I have for you guys, before I answer any other comments from council here before we end this thing here, is what is the advantage of going to the 14 cluster versus the 14 acres on your end? What is the advantage?
There, as far as money, there isn't a huge advantage because you're gonna get a lot more money for 10 acres than you are for a 2 acre parcel, and blend it out through the whole project. I think you're gonna get, so I think it's not a money thing where we're gonna make a lot more money doing it this way. It's just, as far as I think the benefit of being able to preserve and have less impact and just the wildlife. I mean, they don't have a say in the matter, but I live in Oak Grove and you basically take 146 acres and you chop it up into 2 acre parcels. You don't have a lot of area for the wildlife. This is going to give 90 acres for the wildlife to continue to have habitat. With one
Well,
home.
more so for green space is what you're saying.
Green space and habitat for sure. And it's really the most beautiful part of our property, I mean, it is. So you're preserving something.
Right, but that becomes part of lot 9, block 2.
Yeah, and you're preserving all that, that property and that wildlife and that green space.
And I do think that what you had mentioned as far as why we were doing it or why we are agreeing to it is that it is fairly simple plan this way. I mean, it's technically a temporary road. So, I mean, I think that it allows a lot of things in the future for, Gene or family to, add on to it and expand and move from there. If we do the road all the way back and we start having S-curves, and that's going to limit speed, that's going to limit the capabilities of the road down the road. So,
Yeah, a lot more impervious surface, lot more of an impact.
you can't run it just a straight line, which I think, when you look down from a plane, that's usually what you see is more straight line type roads.
All right, thank you, John. I'll make this real quick because I don't have the latest on our, as we discussed. Rob, you have any comments on this?
I don't have anything to add to open to the public.
Sarah?
Nothing for.
Joe Miller?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
All right, does staff have anything to say here at all? Anything you want to comment on all?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor. Not at this time.
And Dave, you're telling us right now, we can go ahead with this on a vote? Or,
We have not received a court order.
okay, and the court order comes through, then it'll be brought back to us?
Correct.
So is there any gain to delaying this at all?
The council does not have to delay this.
Okay. Does council want to delay this at all? Here, I want to ask this question here once, and then I'm going to go for a vote on this.
Mr. Mayor,
Joe?
Mr. Mayor, I believe the issue we have with delaying it is basically if we don't vote on it by a certain time frame, that it's automatically approved. And I'm not sure how the extension that was requested by the developers affects that, but I think if that might be the issue, if we delay it, it's just automatically goes through and nobody votes on it. I'm not 100% sure on that, and I don't know the time constraints based on the what the developers asked for an extension. So I just want to throw that out there.
Is there a deadline that we have to meet here?
Mayor and Council, the deadline right now has been extended, I believe, to March 8th.
Okay, Council, Sarah, you have any problem with delaying this or voting on it tonight?
I think we should go ahead and vote on it. If the injunction comes through, then obviously everything falls anyway, correct?
Dave?
So, is that correct? If the temporary injunction, if you find out tomorrow, say the next day that it was granted, then everything would halt, correct?
It would likely come back to the city council for whatever the judge's order is.
Okay, so if they got the injunction, then we would have to wait till that case was resolved before we move forward, or how does that work?
The court would determine in their order
Okay.
how that will be resolved.
I have nothing for open to the public. If we can move on to ordinance 294, that'd be great. I'll change the agenda.
Kevin?
I have nothing.
And before I go to a vote here, Dave, there's no benefit to wait till we get this judgment down, or just doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't, it's up to the pleasure of the council to decide whether you'd like to take this now, or if you'd like to wait and take action prior to the deadline.
But once again, the title work has to be corrected before this goes to final. And you gentlemen are aware of that, correct?
Yep.
And Craig, that's all involved in this, right? We all know that. Then I'm gonna bring this up for a vote right now, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this, right now, you're on meeting open to the public, not.
Oh, okay, all right, fine, thank you for mentioning that. All right, thank you. Yeah, that's all, but crazy this whole thing is. All right. So now I've ended pretty much meeting open to the public, all right, so let's move on to business. Old business number 8, ordinance 294, amending chapter 3 of the city code regarding municipal utilities, second reading. 1, resolution 2022-07, summary publication of ordinance 294. Dave, is that 2 votes? That's 2, right?
Yeah, so the first is an ordinance that is by, and both are going to be by roll call.
Correct.
And then the second will be the resolution.
So let's just do one at a time here then.
Correct.
Okay. So I have a motion to adopt ordinance 294, amending chapter 3 of the city code regarding municipal utilities, second reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve. And this is just to be clear too, this is not the Green Valley, correct? This is something completely different.
This is something that Parrish brought up to us about.
Right, okay. I'm just making sure that I understand it here, so. I'd make a motion to approve.
For a second,
I'll second
Councilor Robinson makes a second. Any further discussion? Again, this pertains to new substance. Go ahead.
Can we let staff define ordinance 294 second reading?
Okay, let's
See if
do this.
there's any changes.
Good evening,
Parrish, I
Mayor.
didn't see it. Okay, good.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before tonight, for your consideration is to approve ordinance 294, amending city code chapter 3 regarding municipal and public utilities for city code chapter 3, section 2, subdivision 3, city code chapter 3, section 2, subdivision 5, and city code chapter 3, section 3, division 2E, and abandonment of private systems 1 through 3. And with that, if you have any further questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Great. I have one thing I want to bring to council's attention that I talked about earlier today. And what page was that on? 147, I believe?
Yeah, that would have been on 103.
103?
Yeah, it would have been the language that was struck from section C that was combined with E1.
It was 103, you said, right?
Yes, at least on mine.
So it says here, it was read it out, whereas where a hardship exists, the city council may allow the continued use of an existing safe on-site sewage disposal system as a non-conforming use. And if you look at item E1, it says, it puts it there, on the last 3 lines, where a hardship exists, the council may allow the continued use of any existing safe on-site sewage disposal as a non-conforming use. So it was not taken out completely, which I would not vote for if it was. So we do have that discretion where hardship exists. Does everyone understand that? So it was read it out in C, but moved to E1. Okay, it's so okay. Yes. you have any questions on this? No, Sarah? You, Joe? Any questions?
No questions. No,
No, sir. Then, now, do I have a
the motion is already on the table, so I already motioned it. We just need a second.
For discussion, then we'll do a roll call. Jenny, please.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer.
I,
Councilmember Udvig. Aye. Councilmember Mewbauer.
Did we get a second, Mr. Mayor? Did I miss that?
Councilmember Robinson seconded.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Aye.
Again, that's for the ordinance 294, amending chapter 3 of the city code regarding municipal utilities, second reading. Now moving on to resolution 2022-07, summary publication of ordinance 294. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Bauer makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Ludwig makes a second. Any discussion? Jenny, do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Mewbauer.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Bauer.
I,
Udvig. Aye. Mayor Feldman.
Aye. Okay. All right, now. Now we'll move on to item 8B, Green Valley Preserve, second edition, continued from January 3rd, 2022, city council meeting. 1, ordinance 287, approving rezoning of the property south of Ambassador and east of Knackery from A2 to PUD A2, first reading. Should I read all of them, Dave, or just go by the one?
I would start with the first one.
Okay, and does staff have any comments on this?
I can offer comments if you like, but you've probably heard most of them already, so.
I think we pretty much have. All right. Council, have anything on this? Or just, can I go forward with this? Okay. Then do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 287, approving rezoning of the property south of Ambassador and east of Knackery from A2 to PUD A2, first reading? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilor Bauer makes a motion first. Councilor Bauer makes a motion second.
A little bit of discussion I wanted to throw in before we vote, Mr. Mayor. Just for the record and for people to understand too, when we do ordinances, we do 2 readings. And I was gonna throw it in during the public part, but since we weren't on the topic, I kind of restrained. If for some reason an injunction comes through or whatnot, our second reading obviously would get delayed. And then nothing would be approved until the second reading is approved, just for everybody's understanding on how our procedure works.
Correct.
That's all.
That is
All right, thank you, Joe, for bringing that to our attention. Anything else? Then on that, Jenny, do a roll call, please.
Councilmembers Udvig. No. Bauer.
no,
Robinson.
No.
Mewbauer.
Aye.
Mayor Feldman.
Aye. All right, motion did not pass. Moving on to item 2, resolution 2022-03, approving a preliminary plat, PUD plan and preliminary plat for Green Valley Preserve, second edition. Any discussion from staff?
No, we will need findings of fact. If they're not going to go with suggested plans.
Council, you understand that? All right, do I have a motion for that resolution 2022-03, approving a preliminary plat, PUD plan and preliminary plat for Green Valley Preserve, second edition? That motion. I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I am just a little confused though here. Are we still move forward with this resolution, even though the first one was considered
Do we not?
shot down?
The council can make a motion to approve or to not deny. Currently, what you have in front of you is a motion to approve. If it does not pass, it would fail if council states on the record the reason for the failure. My understanding would be the reason for the failure on this motion would be that the ordinance was denied. Prior action.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just don't understand if it would even be necessary to vote on, I guess, but that I guess makes sense. I mean, would we, let's say, I guess, just explain this to me, please. If we vote for it and everybody votes for the resolution, which I doubt will happen anyway, given we voted the ordinance down, what effect would that have if the ordinance was already denied? Does that make sense?
It would have any effect on that. I think that the proper motion would withdraw the motion to approve, have someone make a motion to deny based
Okay.
on the ordinance, and then vote. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
To me anyway, so.
So, Mr. Mayor, do you withdraw your motion?
Yes, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. The next thing for the council that they should consider is
Yep.
to deny the resolution, and that's resolution 2022.
04.
Is it
03.
03?
Oh, is it 03?
Based upon the finding of the previously denied ordinance. That is the motion.
I mean, do we have?
I will make, or you're making the motion, Steve, to deny?
The finding is the ordinance was denied.
Okay,
That is the finding.
so word it for us, please.
So it would be a motion to deny resolution 2022-03 approving preliminary plats. The motion to deny based upon the finding of the denial of ordinance 287.
Okay, I'll make that motion. Okay, Councilman Barr makes that motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
Councilor Hood makes the second. Go to roll call now.
Mayor Feldman,
Now, there's a question, how do I vote on this? I mean, because I voted.
It's a motion to deny. Do you want to go with the motion to deny or against it?
Then I would vote nay.
Correct.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Bauer,
Aye.
Udvig,
Aye.
Bauer.
I guess I'll vote nay, even though I don't know if it's relevant or not, but I will go nay.
Okay. Now, how do we do this next one then?
Mr. Mayor, the proposed motion would be a motion to deny resolution 2022-04 based upon the findings of the denial of ordinance 287.
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilor, you already said motion, do I have a second? I'll second. Councilor Barr makes a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Neubauer,
Nay, I guess.
Councilmember Udvig,
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer,
Aye.
Mayor Feldman,
Nay.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, we got through that. Okay. All right. Now, can we move on to new business? Bank stabilization, Delaware River Park. That's
That's, Mr. Mayor, I can take that one.
okay. So you take it.
So, staff has been working with the Anoka Conservation District on a grant to stabilize a section of bank on the Rum River in Delaware River Park. The location and condition of the bank and the proposed project area is summarized or shown on the exhibit in the packet. Jared Wagner from ACD is here in attendance at the meeting tonight to further discuss the project with you and to see if you want to move forward with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Is it possible to get the pictures up, or do you guys have some pictures of the? You guys have the pictures of the bank condition?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess kind of how this started, actually, Mr. Shook kind of reached out to our office after seeing that there was some pretty bad bank erosion and failure of the bank, kind of encroaching on the paved trail at Delaware River Park. And at that time, we were working towards grant applications with the state based on a full rum river inventory that we did, basically to try to get funding to stabilize eroding banks on the rum. We were working with the county at that time to secure matching funds, to try to secure much larger state grant funds. And then now that we've actually acquired those funds, we're reaching out and trying to do projects on eroding stream banks with property owners. And as the property owner for Delaware River Park, we've been working with the city to potentially do a project and try to correct both a problem for you guys while also getting the habitat and water quality benefits that we need for our grant, in kind of a win-win scenario. But of course, all of these projects involve money, and I think that'll probably be the primary question related to this one. Beyond the information given, rather than kind of reading it verbatim, did you guys have any questions on it, or would you like us to step back and explain about the site more?
Yeah, just a minute. Beth, are you reading that?
I am, yes.
Thank you for your patience. Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So the whole stretch of bank is about 750 feet, but the severity of the erosion varies. So this little current conditions summary that I had sent over, this was a summary that I did back in August of last year. So of the 750 feet, there are 4 kind of sections of erosion. So section A is kind of some more minor toe erosion, and we can correct that with a smaller scale project.
Just a second here.
Sure.
People, can you please leave the council chambers? All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so the erosion kind of varies in severity in different sections of this particular stream bank. And so the first 90 feet, it's kind of just some minor toe erosion, but there is a larger bank above it. If the toe erosion is not stabilized, our concern is that the erosion will continue up that slope and it'll compromise the trail in that section also. Section B is definitely the part where the trail is about to be compromised. There's a pretty sizable washout that's approaching the trail. And if you walk along there, it's pretty obvious. The bank is at least 10 feet high. And there's maybe 10 feet left of grass between the edge of paving and dropping off. Section C is kind of a continuation of those processes, but we haven't seen the big slumping failures yet. Until you get a ways down section C, there's actually one more of those failures, but the trail is backed away a little further. But that bank is going to continue to erode away between those slumping areas through that whole section. And then finally, as you start rounding off the corner on D, some of that scour energy moves away from the bank, and it's more minor erosion down at the bottom of the toe, and we could do a little bit more of a minor project down there too. In sections B and C, we would be looking at doing a more significant regrading, probably some rock armoring to kind of shore those up for the future. So the impetus for all of this, like I had said, was all of these grant funds that we had got to correct the erosion on the river. And so I'm just coming to you guys as a landowner with some eroding stream banks. And so this project would both benefit your property while also satisfying our grant requirements. Rather than having to take on the project later on your own, if you partner with us, then you can just become a cost matching partner. And in this scenario, we only need about 15% of the actual construction cost to satisfy the grant match requirements versus potentially having to do 100% project when the trail washes out. Certain project elements like the trail itself are not grant eligible though. And so those would be bid separate and aside and would not be eligible for any of the grant funds.
Right, so the cost of the city would be the 30,000 and then the 15%.
So the 36,000 is 15% of my construction estimate. The final cost will be 15% of the lowest qualified construction bid, the cost that it actually is to install.
I think the mayor, I put 30,000 in there for the trail.
Oh,
It's
sure,
got
yeah,
66.
so that was a separate estimate to move the necessary chunk of trail back from that stretch of bank. And that would be a city expense because the particular grant that we're looking at using here is through the Outdoor Heritage Fund, which is funded through the Larson Farm Outdoor Heritage Council at the state. It's a grant that's focused on both public usage and then also habitat benefits, but things like paved trails are not eligible, just those more natural elements.
Right, so that the total cost is 293 and 227 will be covered by grants, and then 66,000 will be by the city part of the erosion and then the trail.
Right, yep.
And if we were not to do this, we'd be more out of pocket ourselves as this erodes more over time.
Eventually, that's what will likely happen, yes.
All right, I think that, Sarah, you have any comment on this?
No, I have seen the erosion, it's quite noticeable, at least as of the fall it was. I like the idea of cost sharing whenever possible, obviously. So, I don't have any questions, I guess, to me, it looks like sooner the better, to help reduce costs. I think it would be an okay thing to move forward.
Okay. Joel, your comment?
Well, I guess, 15% is better than 50%. The only question I have would be, can we add like a 5-foot loop to the trail and take the money out of the park dedication fee? Just to be more cost efficient. I guess, where is the money coming from for this, or where would it come out of? And that's probably more of a Darcy question maybe, or.
Talking to Joe earlier, and it was kind of like recommending just coming out of the stormwater fund. It seems like something that we're trying to help with the erosion of that. And
That sounds good too, I guess. That's not bad. I was just curious where the money would come from, but I think 15 is better than 50 or possibly more. One of those things I'd rather, have in the planning ahead of time, but one of those things you can't necessarily plan for. So I would be in favor of it.
So another potential option on the funding is the 30, I think it's 36 from the stormwater fund, maybe the 30 of the trails from the liquor fund, because our park fund's gonna take a hit with this next project that we have on the agenda. Yeah, so we can split it up like that. It might make a lot of sense.
If I may, the only stipulation on matching funds is they cannot originate from state sources. So I don't know where any of your guys' money comes from. It just, you can't match state dollars with state dollars. So if any of that stormwater money originates from state sources, then it's not. But if it's all local, it's all good.
Well, that's a good question too, because it's state mandated to collect. It's our money, but it's state mandated. No?
I don't think that would matter.
Okay.
Only if it would route through the state and back to the city.
Right, well, we are talking about parks and stuff like that, so this is important in our future planning of parks and stuff like this. We can't really allow this to erode, which will cost us more anyway, so we have to do something here. So can we get the funds in place to do it? Okay, that we can do? Yep. Okay. All right, so, Joe, any other comments you have? I think, Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Nothing to add, nothing else to add.
God, I love this wild and scenic river
So you're saying that these are state grant dollars, so going to the DNR for city matching funds, is that something that we could do?
No, it's not matching,
That
it's
would be
15%.
again.
The grants take care of the rest, we take care of 15%, but we can't take that 15% from state money we got. It has to be other funds, not state money. Can't go state to state.
I don't want the DNR to help us. But
I'd like a lot of the DNR.
So the remainder of the funding, the 200-some thousand, is from the state.
right, but not specifically from the DNR, which is where I would love it to come from.
But I like to win the Powerball. So
But it's something that I think, looking at it, and I've walked that trail before. How far down does the Anoka Park go? Does it come down on that side?
Oh, how far does the park extend?
The county portion of the park, is that just north of Ridge Street? That's it?
Yeah, I think the entire parcel that this stretches on is city park, and I thought the other parcels that made up this park were also city property, but perhaps I'm wrong about that. There are a couple small parcels on the south end of this park, I know. But I thought looking at the ownership data that they were all city of St. Francis.
Because we had talked to the county about putting an underpass under Bridge Street, and that is the same bike path type thing. So I was just kind of confused myself, but no, I think it's something we need to get done. Thank you.
Kevin?
A couple questions. Are you looking at other areas on this waterway that the same similar things are happening in other cities?
Yes, absolutely we are. So we did a 400-foot project with the city of Andover this past year. That one was entirely the lighter cedar tree revetment type project. It was all just that smaller toe erosion down at the bottom of a very similar stretch to A and D. And we did 400 feet of that there. On the larger projects that actually have involved grading and rock so far, it's actually mostly been with other private landowners. But as far as me reaching out to landowners, you guys are a landowner, other landowners with eroding banks. I'm just trying to address all the best sites.
Has this area been worked on before? Has this been a problem in the past, or this is all new erosion in the last 15, 20 years of high, low water levels and velocity, et cetera?
Yeah, Jeremy, you probably know more of the history of that.
Mayor, council, this is, I haven't seen this area worked on before. I know over the past 5 years or so, section B has gotten tremendously worse. So this would be a huge benefit, I think, to proceed with.
Okay. And as far as the budget impact, I guess I'd vote for maybe some liquor fund money, because it is a resource, a revenue generator that we're fortunate to have. Otherwise, I don't agree with the stormwater portion of it. I don't think this is a stormwater issue. Personally, I mean, we do have reserves. There's money out there that, you know, we're allowed to use for certain occasions, and this is an, unexpected cost. And again, if we're getting matching money, I think it's worth going into a different pocket for that. But is there future potential spots in our neighborhood as well that this can happen to as well? Are you monitoring future sites that you might see us in a year to 2 years and come back again and say, hi, how are you? And
potentially, this is definitely the worst stretch on city property. We took a photo inventory of the run through the whole county by boat in 2017. The following year completed a full inventory report, which can be found on our website. I think we identified 83 sites, and this was the only one owned by the city of St. Francis of those 83. This type of erosion happens most often on outer bends, and so any place that we didn't identify it previously, but if there are kind of severe outer bends, that those are subject to scour in the future.
And this grant is a certain or guaranteed situation. If we partner up with you and you apply, the odds are really good that this will happen.
So we already have the money.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you do.
yep. So it will happen.
All right.
So it's just our,
Okay.
Yeah, and then it would just be entering an agreement with ACD to essentially do the project, your guys' portion of the cost, our portion of the cost. And then we have a 10-year maintenance agreement for these projects, which is just that the project will be maintained, not ripped out, weeded, the plants that we plant there are gonna be kept there, that kind of thing, just so that we can.
And when would this be done?
The timeline is a little bit variable, so this particular grant, we actually have funding through 2025. It's definitely easier to spend it on the earlier portion of that. But if you guys want to mull it over, it's not something that absolutely has to be done this year. We could potentially push to do this year. That would be a pretty fast track timeline, because we have to do a full survey out there, then do the full design, put that out to bid.
So most likely next year.
Next year would be an easy timeline, a relaxed timeline. This year would be a rush timeline.
And the warranty for 25 years on this, then, I'm just kidding.
So we do, usually the contractor will provide a year or two warranty. Sometimes 2 is a little bit hard. We always get a 1-year warranty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have to agree with Kevin, I'm not sure about the stormwater part. I'm really, don't feel comfortable with that myself, so, because that's really designated for something else. We've had issues with that, so. On that, I'm going to ask for a motion for bank stabilization. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Because I think this is very important. Bank stabilization, Delaware River Park, do I have a motion, please?
I don't think that there's a motion being proposed out of this.
Geez, I'm not gonna get anything right here tonight at all. I swear to God, I think this is unbelievable.
So you want to direct staff to bring back an agreement with DCD and then we can sort out all the money at that time.
I'll happily return at that point. If you guys want.
I'm all ready to go, just like. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right. You gotta laugh once in a while, because we can cry. Anyway, new business, ordinance 295, amending chapter 5, section 3, beer licensing of city code, first reading.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, we have a code change in front of you to allow strong temporary intoxicating liquor, but it's really strong beer and wine at the events. We ran into a situation last year where they were kind of scrambling to find a beer vendor, and they couldn't find anything that was in the 3-2 nature that the city does currently allow. The trend, and maybe John can speak more to this, the trend in the beer world is that it goes to more local micro breweries. And that's some of the interest that they had found from people that wanted to serve beer at these events. So staff is proposing to amend the ordinance to allow temporary on sale intoxicating liquor licenses, which again only includes strong beer and wine.
Right, and this can only go like for a 4-day period, something like that.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It does a total of 12 days in the calendar year, but 4 days consecutive.
Okay. Joe Gilmar, any discussion on this that you have?
Can we add that they have to buy it from the city? Just kidding. I think I'm all for it. I think that, obviously the people that enjoy themselves, I guess, how does Todd feel about that too? Because they get to enforce it when people get rowdy and out of shape.
I have no huge concerns with this. It always takes a level of monitoring, we'll say, but, I think our events in the past have proven pretty uneventful, I guess. So I'm not too really concerned with it as long as people behave.
And really, what is it? Is it 5%? Is it 5% to 3.2? Is that the difference? I mean, really?
What is 3.2 is what's considered strong, right?
Strong beer, I thought is 5%, something like that.
Anything that isn't 3.2.
Anything that's not 3.2. I like that. I don't think it's that big.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. I think it's, people want to buy good beer, I guess, so to speak. And I think it might even actually benefit us and bring more people into the city if, they don't think that it's watered down beer, quote unquote, even though it's not, but you get what I'm saying.
I think we did that, Joe. Okay, Kevin, any comments?
I have nothing.
All right, Rob?
The only question I have is B. It says such temporary sales of intoxicating liquor, strong, whatever, with a social event sponsored by the licensee. So let's say a brewery wanted to do like a brew fest and bring in multiple different breweries. Are all of them going to need to provide a license?
Councilmember Bauer, as it's listed in point A, The license is only issued to a St. Francis-based charitable, religious, or nonprofit organization. So my understanding is that, I think it was the chamber that had requested this in the past. This is specific to that. It wouldn't be, if we're looking at some type of a different event, we have to look at potentially some type of different licensing scheme. This would be the appropriate one to address the issue that came up.
So it's a nonprofit.
Charitable, religious, nonprofit organization is the one requesting.
Okay, but not specific to any, it could be any nonprofit that wants to have an event, or
they have to be St. Francis based.
Okay. All right.
That's it. Sarah? Okay. Now, can I go on to motion with this? Okay. Got a motion to adopt ordinance 295, amending chapter 5, section 3, beer licensing of city code, first reading. Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion, Mayor. Councilor Robinson makes that motion. I have a second. Councilor Ludwig makes a second. For any further discussion, I'll roll call, please, Jenny.
Councilmember Muehlbauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Udvig. Aye. Mayor Feldman.
Aye. All right, moving on to Seaward Park Improvement Project, Resolution 2022-08, accepting bids for the Seaward Park Improvement Project. Correct?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, bids for Seaward Park were opened on January 26th at City Hall. A total of 10 bids were received. 3 alternate bids were also received. Alternate bid 1 included adding the drinking fountain. Alternate bid number 2 included adding the irrigation system. And alternate bid number 3 included adding additional topsoil to the manicured lawn areas. Resolution 2022-8 includes a summary of the 10 bids received. Ashland Companies was the lowest bidder for the base bid or any combination of the base bid and alternate bids. The low bid for the base bid is $326,086.65. If the city accepts all 3 alternate bids, the total contract amount will be $382,824.65. HKGI is the project manager for this project. A memo from HKGI recommending award to Ashland Companies is included in your packet. The 2 other costs associated with the project include the direct purchase of playground equipment, which is $112,676, and the overhead cost of $59,400. The total project cost, including the 2 additional costs, is $554,900.65. As the mayor had pointed out to me before the meeting, there was a typo. The packet says the total cost is $544,965. However, the amount awarded or needed to finance through the city is still $306,900.65. And the city park fund balance is currently $368,784. So with that, if you have any questions.
So that leaves us a little bit less than 62,000 left in the account, which is fine. I mean, this is a big park. This is an important park. This is going to be a public park.
Mayor and council, correct. This is our brand new park in this, in the Rum River or River's Edge development.
Well, I'm for this myself. When we're talking about parks, we're talking about doing all this stuff. This is a good start right here, and it's a good development. I've done very well. So, Joe, you have any comments on this? Joe,
I like the idea, but I guess I'm just curious. The total cost or whatever down here, doesn't it get to help me understand these numbers a little better? I guess brings the total project cost to 544. Am I reading that wrong?
Right, take your calculator out, and if you punch 382,824.65, add on the 112,676 and the 59,4, you will get $554,965. The $306,900.65 is the correct amount. It's just
okay.
444 to 554. Bottom line is
Okay.
the same.
Yeah, I think improving the parks was something we talked about. I mean, it's a start. I don't know if I don't know where we plan on in the future, but I think, starting somewhere, you got to start somewhere. So, and if that's the low bid, that's what we do.
And can I just ask Craig one thing here? This is the lowest qualified bid, because I'm keen on qualified now. After dealing with Weber and the Muni, I want to make sure it's lowest qualified bid.
Yes, I believe HKGI called some references and checked them out.
And I hope it was more than one reference that says they completed on time, because that's all we got with Weber, and that was wrong.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to be qualified is a key word.
Yeah, well, one thing unfortunate, I guess Dave could chime in on this, but somewhat difficult not to pick the low bidder in a public bid. But
Well, see, I look at it like this, if the lowest is not the most qualified, then you go up the next chain. I don't care if you pay a little more, but you get better. Because after 7 months of Weber on that Muni, I never want to go through that again, ever. Because that was a lot of work, a lot of unnecessary work by a company that was inept, so it was a low ball. So we don't want to do that. That's just something we do not want to do. Lowest qualified.
And Mr. Mayor, to your point, if there are specific facts that we receive in getting those reference checks that provide us a basis to say that we would go with a different bidder, we would list that out in the resolution. So we're certainly as very well attuned to your thought process on that, but we would need specific things to list out and say, this is why we're not going with the lowest one because of this, and this.
Well, I just want to point that out because of that last experience, it's just, to save $25,000, but go through the grief we did with that last company on that Muni, that's, we went through a lot more grief than 25,000. I think Jeremy can attest to that. Parrish can attest to that. I know I surely can attest to that. So, just want to make that clear. Okay, so on that will leave, by the way, just to let council know here, $61,883.35 will be left in the park fund after this, if we do this. Okay, $61,883.35. All right, thank you. Joe, anything else you have to say?
No, sir.
Sarah?
My only comment would be on the equipment, the budget for the equipment. Does that mean that we've already started picking stuff up, or that's just what is gonna be allowed?
So those were identified as part of the plans and specs, I believe.
Mayor and Council, correct. The equipment has already been selected and we were running with an estimate and these are the current estimates. So that price could come down with an actual purchase.
Where do you find the equipment that's been ordered?
We can send that out again. So that was actually through the email chain. And we can resend that out so everybody can see what equipment's going to be out there.
All right, Rob, comment?
Is the 306,900, does that include alternates 2 and 3?
it includes one, 2, and 3.
Includes all of it.
Not sure we need the additional topsoil.
Well, if you're gonna do sprinklers, you should do the topsoil. My question is, should we do a drinking fountain? And the maintenance of a drinking fountain.
What does that look like? That was my next question for water source kind of person.
Mayor and Council, there really isn't too much maintenance involved with the drinking fountain once it's installed. It's just simply going to be the drain out at the end of the season. So come fall, we'll drain it out just like we do a community. So
have we had problems with drinking fountains in any parks at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Talking about vandalism.
Mayor, Council, the drinking fountain that was installed a couple of years ago at Community Park, that was, we never had one in any of the other parks before, and that one so far has been fine and very popular, so I think it would be a great benefit to that park to add a drinking fountain to it.
And Kate, I think you say so too, right? Going out there.
Correct.
But like I say, if you're gonna do sprinkler system in topsoil, that's a big deal. Otherwise, it's not gonna be good anyway, right?
One item to add on the topsoil is we don't necessarily have to use it all. It is a unit price bid. So we did talk about maybe possibly we only need half of it.
Wasn't it phases we were talking about?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm for it. Nope.
Quick question, Kate, when we originally started talking about this, especially during the work session, it was it around 500,000 and the bid came in about 6 and some change?
Mayor, so correct. So when we began this project, before we applied for that grant back in 2020, we were at a rough estimate of about 20,000 or 500,000, and that's how we got to the 80% at the 249. So it has come in over bid. Right now, materials and construction costs are just pushing what we had for those costs back in 2021. So.
But still at 554, then we're under our 6, and we didn't have to do any value engineering. We didn't decrease any of the amenities that we were originally looking at, right? So
correct.
We're probably under 60,000, maybe a little more than 60,000 into the 600,000 we were looking at before. Alternates, should be any concern, Craig, at alternates, when one place is 42 grand, out one 10 grand compared to 42 grand, is there somebody just values it? Again, addendums are kind of like an extra for a builder out there. They're hoping to, catch a little extra, but.
Yeah, you just, sometimes they put money in different spots. That's probably the case here because that's quite a difference. But Amy from HKGI did call them and they fully understand the project. So it's up to them to complete this project for that amount of money.
And we have timelines and deadlines, and these guys have to follow a schedule. And,
correct.
Okay. And then with the drinking problem, would you have any type of silcock or any other water facility out there? Maybe to the PW guys, would you have anything, even in a muted situation? Is there a picnic pavilion? I forgot if there was a canopy or a picnic area in this park.
Mayor, I believe there is a gazebo type facility at this park.
Would we be allowed to put a spring-loaded faucet on the backside for larger volumes of water, say for people want to clean up after themselves or wipe down tables or wipe down concrete, or sometimes you can get a faucet that, spring-loaded come back. Again, vandalism is, out there, but again, drinking fountain, same thing, somebody could mess around with that. Maybe it was just an afterthought, but something that big. No, I'm all for it too. I drove through the development the other day, and it's really nice. They've done a really good job. The houses, the way it's going to the north there as well, and those, it's going to be a bright spot. I just like to remind council that we talked about during the work session, and we all were really for it, to really solidly plan for the future, whether borrow from reserves or take some reserves, but look at all our parks in general, give them all a little something, a stipend here, a stipend there, a little more, because this is cool and this development deserves it, no doubt about that. But make a commitment, a quality financial commitment for the future to the other parks that we have and the other neighborhoods that have nothing, but yet have been up for quite a while, and they have anywhere from 40 to 60 homes in them now, and they have nowhere to go. There's sandburs and gopher mounds and stuff. So just a commitment we made to ourselves, and as we move forward, we're all fortunate to be back here in another year. So
Well, that's why we're doing the parks plan.
right.
That's the whole idea of that.
I'm
As
just
far,
running
as,
that
far,
part.
as far as this extra water thing you're talking about, that could be added on later.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
All right. Now, can I have a motion for Seaward Park Improvement Project, Resolution 2022-08, accepting bids for the Seaward Park Improvement Project? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Woodruff makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilor Robinson makes a second. For any further discussion, Jenny, do a roll call, please.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Bauer,
Aye.
Ludwig,
Aye.
Mulebauer,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Well, it was a good start. Good start to what we're doing. All right, moving on to Poppy Street.
This is item 9D. The improvements to Poppy Street and 229th Lane were included in the feasibility report for the 2020 street reconstruction and water main improvement project. Due to right-of-way issues, the proposed improvements were not included in the final contract documents. This report updates the project costs and schedules for Poppy Street and 229th Lane. This project will replace some old and undersized water mains and corresponding water services. This project will also replace the bituminous surface and construct concrete curb and gutter and complete the sidewalk from 227th to Bridge Street. This project will also complete a water main loop. The water main loop will include constructing a new water main on 229th Lane from Poppy Street to Quay Street. The total estimated project cost is $967,436. Additional details are provided in the feasibility report. The project schedule is included in your packet. So in general, we would come back with plans and specifications likely in March for approval for advertisements, open bids in April, conduct a public hearing, which is the first hearing required in April, and then go to construction in May, and then a follow-up after construction with the assessment hearing probably in October. One thing not listed in the schedule if the council would like is a neighborhood meeting. If we do want to do that, we should pick that date tonight. If you want to do that in the next couple of weeks. So that is not included currently in the schedule.
Yeah, it's important. I've had some feedback from the neighbors. We want to be fully open on this. So we can't say later on, every time where we need to talk about it.
So the last page in your packet there kind of summarizes the funding for this project. $448,000 of this will come out of the state construction fund, the municipal state aid fund, approximately $240,000 from the water fund, $126,000 from the stormwater fund, and $152,000 from Oak Grove. Approximately $108,000 of this project would be assessed back to the property owners. With that, if you have any questions.
Yeah, let's see now. So we're going to change the 8, 6, and 8 pipe to 8, 8, 8 all the way around. We're going to do it while we're ripping this road up. We're going to put a sidewalk in and make it safe to walk to the mailbox. We're going to have stormwater and curb, right? And the width of the road is going to be how wide?
28 feet face to face.
Okay. And I had mentioned this before, and I'm sure this will be a battle coming up. You know, I don't doubt that because everything with Oak Grove is a battle. But here, you know, but about speed bumps. You know, plow-friendly speed bumps. I think it would be something we should consider looking at. I live on the street. I know what speed is on the street. Cars doing somewhere up to 50 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone is not unusual. So I would like to know, you have told me one other time to get the speed bumps, we'd have to go through, you know, MSA and have approval on the other side too, right?
Yeah, we'd have to get approval from the state aid for speed bumps. I don't know if they would approve speed bumps, but we can ask.
Well, I gave you pictures of one cities that have those plow friendlies. Minneapolis has them. Plymouth have those. So
Are they on, if they're not on state aid routes, so it's different. If you're locally funded, then you don't need their approval.
More rumble strips, Mayor, can you do that? Can you put it?
I would have spikes in the road if I could get away with it. Seriously, I mean, you know, these speeders down these roads in the residential neighborhoods are ridiculous. And the fact that you walk to the mailbox and they don't even know the steering wheel, you can steer your car around and avoid a human. But of course, that, you know, like get out of my way, not the car get out of my way. I have to get out of their way. So can we check on that?
We'll check.
I think this would be, in my opinion, if we could do it, this would be a good test site. And if it worked, we could actually bring it to some other areas, Todd, where we have these signs, our solar signs up, trying to stop speeders from going through. Because like I say, in summertime, I can tell you on a Friday afternoon on Poppy Street with Village Bank right there, at about 2:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon, they're speeding to get to that bank and they're coming back down the same way to get back to Lake George Boulevard. That's a fact. I've seen it for 8 years. I know all the times. I've seen it before many times. So I'm just saying a speed bump gradual could make a difference. Now we have to sell it. So let's see what we can do on that. The main thing would be to get that street done. Kate, you just drove down it, you know what I mean, as far as that, it's pathetic. The irony of all this thing is, by the way, that Oak Grove, for 10 years, right, a feasibility study on this, that should have been completed. And now we have 2 years of discussion. And Oak Grove would drop $130,000 in their end, and still was all right, I'm not holding punches here because I'm tired of dealing with it. I want the road done. It should be done for the safety of everybody. So that's what should be done. So just call it what it is. Anyways, Kevin, you have any comments on this at all?
No, I really don't. I guess as far as financing for the citizens, as you know, we're gonna, as we went through with, I forget the street up by the hardware store. Will we be able to be creative and help? I mean, some of these things are, it's gonna be a surprise to some of these people, sticker shock, and they're gonna say why and what for, and, will we be able, again, this will probably come out during some of the meetings, but didn't we, I thought we had something, not special, but we were able to work out not as painful a method for people to assess this, or.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because in the first assessment, my end was going to be like over 1,600 and now it's down to 1,300. So I'm prepared to pay it. The road needs to be done and safety should be a key on any road that we do. And I live there and I know what I'm telling you, seriously, this road has to.
And will the Oak Grove residents be getting a letter also then, Craig, when you asked for a community meeting? The 3 or 4 individuals that we reached out to.
I know when we talked about it several years ago, they had kind of talked about having their own. We can invite them.
They're not getting assessed anything though, are they?
Right.
So it's really immaterial. I mean, we paid for the right of way, blah, 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 so. Oh, they might want to sit down, but. Other than that, no, I have nothing. I guess I do have one thing. Some of the owner percentages on the 40%, there's some residents that have 0% or $0 assessed to them.
That's an Oak Grove resident.
Oh, wow.
They're just included in the
Oak Ridge Town.
Okay. All right, I guess I have nothing further. Thank you.
Rob?
Well, mine, I see the assessment for the Oak Grove, or there. The stormwater sewer assessment, it says owner 0, city 17,807. Is that coming out of Oak Grove's portion of funds? Is that how that's laid out?
Correct.
Okay. And then
I didn't split cities.
And I guess my other question is how is the town home association not assessed?
They are assessed by individual lot.
I'm looking at page 148 of the packet, but is page sheet number 2 of the property addresses and assessment. It says unassigned Oak Ridge Town Homes Association, and it's zeros all the way across.
Yeah,
I'm not asking them to pay.
I'll double check that, but I believe that individual homes are town homes are being assessed, but not the association.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't see.
I'd have to find those addresses.
Yeah, maybe it's one of these owners. I don't know. Yeah, check on that for me. Other than that, yeah, it's something that needs to finally get done before Oak Grove changes their mind.
Okay, Sarah, your comments?
Sit there, agreeable to this, let's move forward with it. Hopefully we can get it done before they change the mind.
Okay, Joe, you have already?
I don't really have anything to add.
Well, you've seen the street, you live near it, so you know what condition it is.
No.
And Craig, have you taken care of the situation with the bank as far as that easement there or whatever?
They are ready to sign that. Just I want to make sure the project's going forward.
All right. Okay, moving on. Do I have a motion for Poppy Street and 229th Lane reconstruction? And again, we got to set a date here before we even do this. Let's set a date for the public hearing or for the neighborhood. Okay, let's do that. So if anybody's watching here, I won't hear later on, we need to do that. Okay, calendar-wise, so you're talking open bids on the 5th. When do you think we should do it, Greg? Before we open bids?
I would like to do it sooner before later. So. Yeah, so we have opening bids on April 5th. So sometime later this month would be great, but.
February?
Yeah. Otherwise, March, early March would be fine.
Okay, March. How about the 2nd of March? That's before council approves plans and specs and sets a public hearing date. Is that okay?
Yes.
March 2nd?
Because that, I'd like to have it before you approve plans and specs.
Right. And that's March 7th, you'd be doing that. So I'm talking about March 2nd. Or the 28th of February.
I'll be gone.
So that.
I'll be gone the 24th through the 1st.
Okay, then how about the
That'd be a good time to have it.
Well, I wish I didn't have to be there either. How about the 2nd of March?
That works great.
All right, so 3/2/22, which is a Wednesday, right? Neighborhood meeting. And we'll get mailings out. Right?
Yep.
Five 5:30 then, something like that? Okay,
Mayor, can I ask a question?
sure.
Craig, with the extent of this project, any other visual aids you can bring to that type of meeting like you did at our past? I mean, visual stuff is always good. People can see then and now and what we're doing and why we're
Just
doing it.
reprint them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bring candy too, whatever will help. Okay, maybe bring some 3-2 beer, no.
It'll be stronger by
What
then.
is wrong with you?
Okay, for 4 days we can do it, not a problem. All right, March 2nd, and then where should we have that, the community room? Okay. So staff put that out. So that we get this out to the people, so I don't have to hear, well, you have no meetings on this, because we're gonna have a meeting on this. Okay. Thank you. Now, can I have a motion for Poppy Street and the 229th Lane Reconstruction and Water Main Improvement Project? Resolution 2022-09, receiving report and ordering plans and specifications for the Poppy Street and 229th Lane Reconstruction and Water Main Improvement Project.
I'll make that motion or second.
Councilor Bauer makes the first, Councilor Mewbauer makes a second. Are any further discussion? Can you do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Mewbauer,
Aye.
Member Udvig. Aye. Councilmember Bauer,
Aye.
Mayor Feldman,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
All right, let's hope it goes down. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Craig. Everybody. All right, moving on to, let's see here. Moving on to, let's see here. Moving on to proposal for city administrator search process, BGNS. BGS.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, before you is a proposal from our office as the city administrator has tendered his resignation. This BGS has provided city administrator executive search services in the last 2 administration searches. We're proposing to do that again. The last time we did that was in early 2015. We have a pretty good process down on how we have done it in the past. I have outlined that in the proposal and some kind of draft timelines. I know that staff has already gone ahead and posted the position, which I think is a good thing to do. There are several city administrator searches going on in Minnesota right now. And so I think there's a lot of different cities that are looking for good candidates. BGS is proposing to do this work at a not to exceed rate of $17,000, and then we will be doing that at an hourly rate, so we will be only charging for the time that we're actually doing the search services. That will be for application review. The main portion of that will be the first round of interviews with the semifinalist candidates, and then the executive search committee will choose finalists. We will set up times to meet with staff and with the whole council. Then the council will have the ability to choose their end candidate, and then our firm will assist with negotiating the contract on that, and then the normal onboarding of the position. So again, this is something that we have done in the past, and we're happy to do that again for you. I would stand for any questions that the council would have.
All right, Dave, I think you did that when Joe was there, right?
Correct.
All right, and if we don't do this, what process do we go through, which takes a lot longer?
So you can hire like a group that specializes in executive searches. They last maybe up to 90 days a lot of times, so it's doing much faster to go with BG&S. Or the other option is just do it in-house, but then you don't have anyone really coordinating it. Like you would want your legal team involved in that.
And you did this before, and you're familiar with our city, of course.
Right.
All right. Kevin, any comments on this?
I really don't. And again, as long as you have done this in the past, what gives you the edge over, say, an alternative firm that would do this? Why should we pick you rather than outside?
Number one, cost. Since we are in-house, pretty much, we've done this before. If you look around in the market, we're coming in under what a normal executive search firm would likely come in on proposals for. And then two, I would say in terms of expertise, if the council does know, my past career was the assistant city administrator in Oakdale. So I do have some familiarity of who's out there in the business.
Do you want to take this job on?
I don't know if BGS is going to let me sit in both chairs. But again, it's a process that we're very comfortable with. We know the community, and we're definitely making this competitive on price because we can do that. Because again, we know the council, we know the community.
And timelines.
I'm concerned the last guy you picked is leaving, so that's.
We had nothing to do with it.
But we did have almost 7
I'm only joking.
So,
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Joe, your comments for the board?
I don't really have an issue with it. I think being cost effective is a good thing. You know, I don't know how asking the guy that wants the job, why it would benefit him really going to do much for us. But I like Dave. I trust Dave and his judgment. Yeah, I thought about applying for the job myself. I'm probably not qualified, but you know, I know the community. I could stay in town more, but no, I don't have an issue with going with BG&S.
Thermostat installation and to be city administrator. I don't think you want to do that. All right, Sarah, your comments?
I think it's fine that BGS for the different systems.
Okay, Rob?
No comments.
All right. So, do you need a motion or just direction?
Motion to accept the proposal as presented.
Okay. Got a motion to accept the proposal for city administrator search process with BG&S. BGS. Got that.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Robinson has a motion. Do I have a second? I'll make that second.
That works.
Do a roll call, please.
Mayor Feldman,
Aye.
Councilmember Muehlbauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bauer,
Aye.
Councilmember Ebbing.
Aye.
All right, good, thank you. Second meeting open to the public. I take it we don't have anyone at this point. All right, reports, Todd.
Mayor, council, in your packets, you'll see the 2021 annual report for the police department. It was a year of trying to get back to a little bit of normal, I guess, just still dealing with the COVID stuff, of course, and trying to keep our staff healthy. But I think it was a year of really returning to some community outreach stuff, which we really missed out in 2020. So that was one positive takeaway. And in this report, we really just try to focus on our staff in our department, the roles that they play, how they, what kind of services they provide. and just get more specific on and focusing on them. So beginning on page 5, it's just our officer list, our current one anyway. Hopefully, we're adding an additional officer that's pretty quick once we're through with our current hiring process. Most of these officers work a patrol shift, and they responded to just over 6,500 incidents in 2021. Among these on this list are our sergeants who also respond to calls. They perform administrative duties, street supervision, in addition to some instructor roles such as firearms and use of force. So they stay busy themselves. The next page, on page 7, highlights our department investigator, who was assigned 86 criminal cases to investigate in 2021. Our department investigator also wears many hats, including writing and serving some search warrants, signing criminal complaints. He conducts all of our background investigations. He oversees our forfeiture processing, also our alcohol and tobacco compliance checks, and manages our evidence room. So when he's not working on criminal cases, he's definitely staying busy doing other things. Pages 8 and 9 recognizes our office, our record staff. Some of their day-to-day tasks include data entry and release, gun permits, squad and body camera video redaction and release, monthly, quarterly, annual stats, community coordinating events, and just amongst some other duties that are listed here in the report. Our department chaplain on page 10 plays a vital role in assisting our officers on some difficult scenes, also assists with a lot of our community events, and provides some encouragement to our staff when they need it, and also to community members when he's out and about. Also on that page is our CRO, or our Community Relations Officer, as it's now known. It's a fairly new position, and our CRO is responsible for working with City Hall on some select city code enforcement concerns. But besides that, our CRO is active in engaging with the community through many of our outreach programs, as well as our social media site. The CRO has had to spend, unfortunately, some of his time in 2021-22 doing some patrol duties just due to staff shortages. We may have to do that from time to time. It's just kind of the reality of it. But we hope to have him back in that CRO role really soon. It's become a really good addition to our department, so we're excited to get him back. December 2021, the department implemented the use of a portable recording system, or body-worn cameras, as they're typically known as. This was a huge project, which included a lot of staff hours to get that program up and running. And it's going well, and I think it's going to have a positive impact on this department and this community. Really, it's just another way to increase trust to the public, transparency, and accountability on both sides, the public and our officers. So it's been a good addition so far. Page 12 talks about some training, which is, of course, is a major area, big part of what our officers do. 2021, they completed 607 hours of training, and a lot of those are mandated to maintain their peace officer licenses. Our reserve unit is highlighted on page 13. This unit is comprised of 7 individuals who have full-time jobs in other fields. Most of them have families, and yet they volunteer a lot of their time to serve this community. A lot of community events, a lot of assisting officers on the street with accident scenes and stuff and things like that. So they're a huge asset, and just have a ton of respect for these reserves for the time they put in for what they do. And beginning on page 14 are the police department statistics for the year compared to the previous year. As mentioned earlier, there were 6,521 incidents generated, which was a slight increase over the previous year. This also includes self-initiated activities such as traffic stops. There were 659 citations issued and 86 criminal investigations assigned to the department investigator. Some notable increases were in assault, both domestic related and other types, as well as DWIs, medicals, and domestic situations. We also noticed a reduction in thefts and burglaries, as well as open doors, particularly garage doors, which our officers look for during the overnight hours. And house checks, also, if you notice, the house checks really declined in 2021. The main reason for this is house checks are coded the same as business checks, and in 2020, 2020, we did mandate business checks on our shifts during some of the civil unrest periods. So that's why, being that they're coded the same, they show up as house checks, but they're business checks. So that's why the numbers were so much higher in 2020. Page 18 focuses on TZD, or towards zero debts, which unfortunately we're continuing to see the numbers going in the wrong direction, despite the efforts of law enforcement, and you'll see some of the contributing factors that are listed in the report. We did welcome Officer Bart to the department in 2021 from a reserve unit. So far, he's doing great for training. He's been a good addition. We look forward to getting him on his own very soon here. And hopefully we plan on welcoming another officer again once we get through this hiring process we're currently in. And then the next few pages just really focus on some additional services the police department offers, along with the numerous events all throughout the year that just really couldn't be done without the extra efforts put in by this one. So just like to thank council for your continued support of all of us, and we look forward to another year at the TV. So with that, I can answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Todd. Very thorough report, by the way. Some questions I had here. On page 16, I'm still amazed at the amount of DWIs that people have not learned to not drive, drink, and drive. I mean, it's up from 2020 to 2021, it's up 46 more, it was over double. I mean,
yeah,
stay home.
Yeah, very true. And one contributing factor to that could be that, again, during the peak of COVID in 2020, we did somewhat limit our self-initiated activities just to keep exposure down. But yes, it is continuing to.
Well, I read it in the off-week memos, as we all do. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it's just like, get an Uber, walk, stay at home, go to the liquor mini, buy a bottle, bring it home. Good idea. Or a case of beer, bring it home, be safe. I mean, seriously, it doesn't pay to go out like that, drinking and driving. And then on page 17, I see medicals are up, which goes along with what Dave's reports are with the EMS and that. And then also domestic situations. I mean, that's concerning to me.
Yeah, we do a lot of mediation. Not all of them result in arrest, but some do. A lot of times there is some contributing factors there, such as alcohol. The economy didn't help, hasn't helped recently. Just creates some stressful situations for a lot of people, and sometimes things come to a head and we have to go out. So, but again, we do a lot of mediating. Not all of them end up in people getting hurt, going to jail, but they're definitely increasing.
Yeah, those are my concerning areas and stuff like that. Otherwise, a very thorough report. Joe, any comments you have for Todd?
I don't have any questions. Good report as usual, Todd. The only comments I would have too would be, especially this year, well, one I went through it last year, but the Citizens Academy, again, just an awesome experience. I encourage at least 2 of our council members that didn't go last year to hopefully attend this year, especially I'm probably going to be in and out of town back and forth a lot this year. I'm going to get to physically be at as many meetings as I can, but I just want to encourage 1 or 2 of you to please attend those, because those are really awesome. It gives really good perspective. Excuse me, really good. It's a fun experience. It gives perspective. I don't know what to add to it, how to pump it up more, but it was really fun, really enjoyable for me. So I'm hoping that we get more citizen involvement, as well as some more council member involvement, as I probably won't be attending, but really hope you guys take advantage of that. Again, good report as usual, Todd. Notice some ups in some categories, some downs in some categories, but just kind of the way it works. So thanks for clearing up the house check thing too, because that was a little interesting. But other than that, I have nothing else to add. Thank you for your service.
One question I have is on page 26, where it shows you the kick. Is that you kicking there on page 26? Joe Miller?
Yep.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
But it took over us. All right,
Do you hear me?
We heard you. Okay, sure, your comments?
No, again, kudos to your department, Todd. They do an excellent job. I will again, just let residents know that at the police department, they do have different decals. So if you have a brain injury, PTSD, you're diabetic, dementia, deaf, hearing impaired, autism, or special needs, they do have decals at the police department, and you can put those up in your windows, and that'll help our emergency personnel know that there's something that they can be alert to. It's very helpful for them and how they can handle things and how they approach their services. So if you have one of those, I would seriously encourage you to go and get one of those stickers. That would be a very good thing. I do like the response times. I like seeing that. It does seem that we do seem to respond to those situations fast, and it, you know, I like the, from what I hear, even from people who get pulled over or, you know, are stopped for different reasons, whether it's being or walking too late at night kids, the officers are respectful of them, and, you know, they tell them to go home, and if they are compliant, there's no issue. If they're not, you know, there may be some issues, but overall, I believe that our officers do an excellent job. You know, they're not out there ticket crazy or arrest crazy. They're very respectful and responsible. And you know, just remember, if you're breaking the law, whatever happens is actually your fault. It's not the officer's fault for catching you. It's your own responsibility. So thank you,
All right, thank you, sir. Rob, rather, comments?
Great report, Todd. I like the last part, you know, if residents, if you read the packets and look through it, you know, it really humanizes law enforcement, where right now there's a stigma associated with that. All the pictures are great for our community, and it really shows that our officers care about our community. Give them my thanks for their service. Great report. Thank you.
Kevin?
No, back on what Rob said too, great report. The visuals are awesome. Again, the public involvement is exceptional as far as I'm concerned. 7 reserves, I didn't catch that when I read through there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's actually low compared to where we're usually at. Usually we're closer to 9 or 10. But the reserves that we have, probably 80–90% of them have been with us for quite some time. So they continue to, you know, help us out, and they're such a huge asset, you know, for football games to doing traffic, and I couldn't imagine what our officers' shifts would be like without them.
Are they compensated for the stuff that they do, or is it all volunteer?
They're volunteer.
And do we bill their time out at all, or that again, it's volunteer?
For certain events, we do. Yeah, the city gets reimbursed for some of the time.
That's still amazing. 7, and again, they're diplomats of your department that's still out there, and it's like almost doubling the fortune. That's awesome. On the DUIs, over the years, you've had a lot of people passing through. Are they still passing through? Are we finding not as many of our own residents, but people?
I would still say a majority of the DWIs we're involved with are people not residing in our city. So, yeah, they're, you know, whether they're drinking at an establishment here or home here and going home to a different city, or just passing through, but a majority of them do not live here.
Do you find that with the narcotics as well? You see there evidence of narcotics, again, people passing?
I mean, we have our regular customers that will deal with time to time, but again, a majority of those, we just had a controlled substance arrest last night. The person does not live anywhere close to here. So don't really know or get the real truth on what they're really doing here a lot of times, but yeah, it's continues to be a trend. The arrest, and for the most part, I guess it's a good thing. We're not arresting our locals all the time, which is probably okay.
Sure. With that, meth, production, have you seen much of that in our community itself?
We haven't seen that here, no.
That's good. Is it down or up, or you just haven't seen it there's a trend that we haven't seen it in a couple of years?
I think a lot of it nowadays is being brought in from different areas, different countries, so I would say people manufacturing their own, it is probably lower than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Also on the Narcan situation of that, is that EMT more based, or are your people trained in that as well, and just in case EMT doesn't get there in time, or?
Fire department has trained our staff to use that, we rely on them to provide that as well as our medics.
And do you guys carry it then, or you don't? You do not, EMT only?
Fire department carries.
Okay. And do you have any immediate concerns for our city? Have you seen anything creeping up in the last 12 to 16 months or 18 months that that we should be addressing or keep our eyes open, or what concerns you as a chief?
Well, the speed, we always try to, it's always a catch-up game, we always try to stay ahead of that, it's difficult, so that remains one of our top priorities. The DWIs, of course, is always a concern. Again, trying to find ways to get ahead of that can be challenging. So just the traffic related stuff, just some, the narcotics, it seems like a lot of that has stayed pretty consistent year to year. We're not seeing huge spikes. It just kind of comes down to how proactive the officers want to be out there and how aggressive they want to be enforcing and finding that stuff. Fortunately, we have a few of them that are. So I would say, over the years, it's been pretty consistent. I'm not panicking about anything right now. I guess my number one concern right now is trying to find officers when we need them. Trying to, the candidate pools are so slim right now and they're so low. Trying to find qualified candidates is getting very challenging. Especially for small departments. So that is probably my number one area of concern now is, when that time comes again, when we need to hire an officer. We've seen candidate pools drop considerably, from process to process. So, when we were looking at 50 to 60 candidates 3 years ago for one position, we're down to single digits applied. It's good. So.
Nothing should be highlighted over your past reports, whether they be quarterly or monthly. Your citations as opposed to stops are still, the citations are low, the stops could be many, but again, no citations. So we're educating, or you're educating more than busting people's chops or whatever. And that's nice. And the people should be aware of that too. That's not just, it's recreational, citation writing out there. You guys are talking to people and finding the wheres and the why fors, what's going on here, and finding underlying stuff. And then lastly, gun permits. It says gun permit purchase applications. What's the difference for me going to Dick's Sporting Goods and doing that, or as opposed to going to your office and doing
so? To go buy a firearm from a federally licensed firearms dealer, you're going to need a permit to purchase a firearm, and you're going to get that from your local law enforcement agency. When you want to carry a firearm, consistent with the laws out there, a loaded firearm, a handgun, you're going to get it on carry, which is done through the sheriff's office in your county.
So it is different than me going to a sporting goods store, Cabela's or so, and the gun purchase application. Is it the same?
Yeah, and you don't need one if you go buy a hunting rifle or a shotgun. They're going to do their own checks still, and even with a permit to purchase, if you go buy a handgun and assault rifle, that firearms dealer is more than likely still going to do some checks other than. So the permit's required, but them being federally licensed are going to still do the so
Well, again, exceptional job. Your crew is exceptional as well, and very good report. We're glad you're here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to council member reports. Joe Millar, yours, please.
One, thank you guys for accommodating me again. We had a gentleman that works with us that passed away at about 45 years old, had a heart attack in his kitchen. He was supposed to head up this project, so I was kind of called in again last minute to come out here. So I appreciate you guys working with me. Apologize, I've been up since very early. A lot going on today, so I apologize for that too. The one thing I just kind of want to get, I guess, for the record is for me, for the Green Valley situation, I do not have a finding of fact to deny them. And given we approved the PUD months ago, I could not find a good finding of fact. That being brought up, I guess my question is too, and I know Beth asked, we need a finding of fact. Is that something that, just to cover bases, that the council members that did vote against it, that they have to get to you or give you something, or is it, where are we with that? I guess I'm just want to clear that up so we got all our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Mayor and council, so Beth and I discussed if it failed tonight, that we will bring it back to the next meeting, because we will need from council the reasons for the denial.
Okay.
Reasons should come from the council members.
The reasons need to be created from our either comp plan or zoning code in which you failed the project for.
All right, and my point is that means those council members that vote against it, that's your homework. Look at those.
We're one body though, so it has to probably come from all of us, basically.
I don't have to explain my vote or Joe Gilbar, so they have to explain why. So that's how it works. Okay. Do anything else?
So just, yeah, contact staff, people, I guess. I just want to make sure we got our I's dotted and T's crossed. So I just want to bring that up. That's, I mean, I get where the people are coming from, why they don't want it, but we also have to have that reasoning. So I want to make sure that we cover those bases too. But other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Sarah, your comment?
I just want to bring up, let me get my one so I can read it to you. The Chamber of Commerce is working on Pioneer Days, and they are going to try to make it happen this year. There will be a community meeting coming up on February 16th at Patriot Lanes. It's open to all community members. And Joe, I don't know if you're going to be around, I'm not sure, but I am planning to attend, kind of on behalf of the city, kind of working with Monica. Since I know you're gone a lot, so if you don't mind, I'm going to attend that meeting kind of on the city's behalf, but I'm also going as a resident to kind of help with Pioneer Days. So
I was going to encourage a replacement because I know that's my designated appointed position. So
to step in with it, that's a fine fit for me. So, but I just encourage our residents to help with that. I would like to note that Pioneer Days is currently scheduled for June 3rd through 5th. So get that on your calendars, and I know that they are trying their best. So if you have any resources or you have any contacts, please come to a meeting or contact the chamber. Let's help make Pioneer Days come back and have a great community gathering.
Okay, Rob,
I just want to thank all the residents that contacted me about Green Valley. That's really all I have to report about my report.
Okay. Kevin?
I'll just state, well, it's fresh in everyone's mind, I'll state mine right now, if I may briefly. On the amendment, ordinance 287, the rezoning, I voted against it because I didn't feel it fit out there. I drove out in that area 6 to 8 times, stopped on the corner, stopped on the curb, the shoulder, looked out, it didn't fit that area to me, not yet. And the trunk version of the residential migration of our city isn't out there yet, so it didn't look like it blended in. I'm all for the 1 for 10, and then I asked the gentleman here, how would it look, how much would it cost you, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen developments like this in other communities, including our own. You can have larger acreage and have very nice homes in there, but again, in our own, the 2040 comp plan says future land uses, this is under agricultural, maximum density 1 for 10. Future land uses and development shall maintain and embrace the existing rural character as an essential element if subdivided. Rural, not urban planning and servicing principles should apply to these areas. The city may allow the use of density bonuses if the applicant or property owners show that their proposal meets additional conservation design. I didn't feel it met that design. I thought that that harbored acres that they kept for themselves, which they're certainly entitled to do. And if I was doing it, I guess you had that piece of property years ago, would you subdivide and develop it? And you had an awesome hunting spot. I mean, that's Americana. I mean, to have an idea always like at the hunt end, I don't blame them. But again, I didn't think the cluster belonged out there when you drive around the rest of the areas. It just didn't meet the flow to me. If there were other housing developments that were coming out that way and you could see a pattern, I would have voted for it. The 1 for 10, they can do it, they're allowed to do it, I'd be all for it. As far as the 60,000 for wetland, I never agreed with the wetland credit. You can fill something in here and then create something over here. I don't agree with that. Maybe they wouldn't put 14, maybe they should put 8 on that acreage, but I don't have a problem with that. As far as the preliminary plat, again, that kind of dovetails with, I don't think it was pretty crunched, and we make a lot of concessions. I think it was a narrower street and it was a longer street than we normally do. Again, we're making concessions. The term was used early on, flexibility, which we should have, and in some areas it does fit. We have a development again coming up on the north side of town that's it's gonna look, on paper, it looks kind of tight and compact and stuff, but we've been waiting for that. We've been looking for that. The city's been, Kate and her team have been, it's a dream come true. The infrastructure will be coming up there. It'll help the rest of the residents not bear a big burden of a water treatment plant that they've had to bear for many years. Plus, it's gonna welcome more people to the neighborhood. As far as the western portion of town where this is gonna be done, it's not the north end of town that's gonna be happening, so I'll leave it at that. And again, the variances sometimes, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, in the long-term thing. And I really love this town. I love what Kate and her people have been doing. I'm all for growth. I would never stifle growth when it's done properly. I was a little concerned early on in the planning and zoning side, which I'm a liaison. It was a 50-50 split, and it kind of went from there. The developers weren't there at that one, or the first 2 meetings. It got tabled the first one, I believe. I could be mistaken. And then the second meeting again, they still weren't there. They had commitments or whatever. It was a big deal. They should have been there to make the presentation as well. The other people who were against it. And again, somebody said, thank you for your support. I wasn't supporting anybody. I looked at the concept. It didn't agree with me. It didn't agree with what I thought the city should be. And it didn't agree with what the city had put down in black and white. So if anybody thinks I'm supporting or non-supporting, that's, forget that that's a misconception. I'm still work for the people. And again, we're all one voice, but we work as a group. So that's the bottom line for me.
Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. The liquor muni, I'm still working, trying to get a meeting with Weber so I can find out the final bills with that. John and Crystal are working with me and along with Kate and Lisa on promoting the store now, because that's the most important part now. And we're going to be working on upgrading those digital signs. I've got some meetings coming up with a company that's looking at it right now and another company. So we'll check that out. How that's going to turn out, because digital signs have changed so much, and those signs are 12 years old right now. So we want to promote the store. The key now that we've expanded it, we have to promote it. We have to let people know what that's changed, or there's wine tasting areas and there's promotions and things like that. So again, Kate and me, Lisa, are working on that end. Of course, John and Crystal are working on the other end. And hopefully we can put that Weber final out and move on with that. We've had some health issues on both sides too, so that's been a delay there. I want to point out to Public Works, police rather, and fire, in the off-week memo, not the off-week memo, it was actually an email that Todd wrote the council. I'm very proud to be a mayor in a town where you can, I feel in this town, if you have an ailment, before that ambulance gets there, you have the ability, your percentage of survival in this town is a very high percentage, basically on what Dave has brought to the fire, and Todd working in conjunction with the fire. I can't commend you guys enough. I'm very proud, again, to know, I'm confident in my mind that if someone is having an issue where the ambulance is being called, before that ambulance gets there, the right care has been given to them, and their percentage again of survival is very high. In those minutes that count before that ambulance gets there. Now, I would like to see someday where every town has its own ambulance service, but that's not going to happen in a short time, if ever. because of cost, and it always comes down to dollar amount. But if you read the email like I did, I called both chiefs up and just very proud from the work that you've done. Because public safety is 2/3 of our budget, not just on DUIs, on house checks or domestics and all that. It comes down to when you get that call, you are going to be confident that someone on that call end is going to be there and can give you that service, what you need to get there alive before that ambulance gets you, and whatever, however you want to call it, that medical triage, whatever you want to call it. I mean, whatever. It just makes me proud. Thank you for that service. I mean, you guys have done excellent here. And by the way, Todd, your community orientation for the last years that we've been here since we came in 17 has been great. I mean, working on a small town level and having the police officers not having people afraid of the police in this town is a very big thing, because I just read some article here, just saw something yesterday about a shooting in Minneapolis last Wednesday on a 22-year-old that was gunned down in his own place. Just sad, you know, and I keep saying that police officers, you know, interview better, train better, have unions stop protecting the black police officers, not defunded, but work it better. You've done an excellent job here bringing the police one-on-one. So our people, I don't believe, are afraid of our police, because our police work with them and our community oriented, and that's because of your leadership. And again, Dave, your leadership with EMS ability that our fire station and firefighters have today is nothing but I can't even bring up the words that how much I commend you for the service you've done. You really put St. Francis on the map. Believe me, I've had a heart attack in Ramsey. I know what that's like waiting for an ambulance, and I know those minutes count very much. So thank you. On that, I want to say to community development, thank you for your patience dealing with us. It's not easy, I can see. Hopefully, you know, being up here on this seat here from that audience over there, it may only be 35 feet or whatever it may be, 25, 30 feet, whatever it is. But the decisions here are not easy decisions. I want the public to know that. It's not easy deciding on what's best for the city at large versus your neighborhood versus our neighborhoods, whatever. I mean, I have a Poppy Street project going on. I don't deal Poppy Street because I live on it. I deal because it's a street that has to be done on a construction basis and what's good for the city. When I became mayor here, I used to come to meetings before, as you all know, dealing with the speeding on Poppy as a resident. But now, as a mayor, I come and deal with. I've gotten our speed signs, our solar signs, all that. I work with the police on that because I care about all the streets like Poppy Street and all the speeding going on, not just Poppy Street. So when you are up here, you give up basically the right as an individual because you're a council member and you deal with all the residents behind you that you represent. So this job is not easy. And it can be something, you know, I've always said, I mean, we will look into any issue you have, we will vet it, we will look into it. But at the end of the day, it's gonna, I feel, a decision based on what feels best for the majority of the city at large. It's a tough decision to make. We're not gonna make everybody happy because progress is a double-edged sword. Some will like it and some won't. But this city is growing, and in growing pains, this is what happens. There will be some other development down the road that we'll have the same issues with. It's always gonna be something. We have to look at the bigger, broader picture of the city, and that's our job. That's what we're elected to do. Before I end this, I want to say to Joe Coleman, I wish you the best. You have contributed to getting the city where it's been since 2015. We wish you all the best. You will be missed here. I hope that we can find somebody equivalent to you, if not better, hopefully. And I hope we get that the first time out and not have to go through a two-person process. I hope not. But again, thank you for your service. You've been an intricate part in making the city better than it was when we came in. Very much. So thank you. And I will applaud you for that. All that. Let's see. Anything else that we have to discuss at this time? Okay. And as I think we should all be aware that Kate will be taking on the interim city administration job until we get our permit. Okay. Thank you, Kate, for that. Thank you all for your patience during these times when no, it's hard to dictate what we want to give people their time to talk and all that. We want to listen to everybody. And again, these decisions are not easy that we have to make here. People may think this job is easy. It's not easy. It's easy if you don't do any work to it. But when you're working like we do at work sessions and things you don't see behind the scenes, it is a lot of work. And also, one thing I also want to mention before we go here, please, people, if you're listening in, do not go to social media to solve your problems. Come and talk to us, either city staff or an individual council member or ourselves, the council as a whole. But come and talk to us and give us the opportunity to look at your issue or concern. You may not get the answer you want to hear, but you will get a truly vetted, discussed issue that will be fully vetted and discussed and thoroughly, and we'll get back to you with an answer that you can tell us. So I just wish people would stay off of social media. You will not get a remedy through social media. You may get more disgusted, more misinformed, but you won't get a solution on social media. That I can guarantee. On that, we'll future further business.
No further business.
Okay. And I will adjourn this meeting at 8:18 on Monday the 7th. Thank you.